on First at 9, this Wednesday, the 8th of May 2024. Task as President. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says his task to restore the Sri Lankan economy is nearing its completion.
My task as President has been to restore the economy. That task is nearing an end.
Says Sri Lanka is in the process of drafting laws to deal with both the environment and climate change.
On that basis, we have to have a green economy.
External debt plan. China will complete debt restructuring in line with the envisaged formalization of agreements with the official creditor committee, says Foreign Minister Ali Sabri.
We hope that debt restructuring will come to an end as soon as possible. We are hopeful by the end of June, China will probably follow that up.
Sri Lanka is in discussion with Saudi-based power developer for renewable energy investments.
There are many ways to do it because it's important for us. These captive markets are not neglected.
Visa issuance debacle. Secretary to Public Security and Controller General of Immigration summoned before the Committee on Public Finance. Supreme Court verdict. State Minister Derana loses her parliamentary seat.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is Ava Derana First at 9 with Indivari Amuata and Mahesh Jani. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening, everyone. Welcome to First at 9. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us on this Wednesday night. A lot of stories. Good evening, Indivari. Good to see you.
Good evening. Good to see you. And a very warm welcome to all of you joining us tonight on First at 9. We have a number of stories, especially taking center stage is the developments in Israel and especially Israel's ally, the United States, for the first time making or taking some concrete effort, let's just say, in preventing or halting and pausing a shipment that was meant to Israel, but this shipment had contained some major ammunition and bombs that could destroy with precision targeting, and that's scary.
Yes, a lot of things that we do not know what's happening with regard to, underneath the whole things that we see on news with regard to the Gaza offensive there. More so, there are lots of stories here at home as well. One of the key stories is, like you saw in the headlines, the visa debacle continues. I think it's like another episode of this entire saga. A lot of people are now questioning why is it going to a third-party company, whereas visa issuance of visa should be a responsibility of the government and government alone.
Regardless of these developments, it is Sri Lanka tourism, the image of Sri Lanka, that suffers a blow internationally. Several magazines, several international travel companies had highlighted Sri Lanka as an easy to travel, one of the best destinations to travel in a lifetime, etc. But the hardships that these tourists faced, the inconveniences faced receiving or getting an on-arrival visa at the Bandaranaike International Airport stands very bad on Sri Lanka's image and reputation as a tourism destination.
Not only that, economically, apparently, one of the opposition members say that 20% is now being given to this company, which should have come to the government coffers. We're just spending something. I mean, there was not a story or there was not a situation where the immigration or the immigration department was incapable of issuing this. It was not like that they didn't have staff, manpower or something of that nature.
So I think to respond to that question, the Committee of Public Finance has summoned the Immigration Controller General as well as the Secretary of the Public Finance Ministry to question how this went through. And I think it's time we take a look at news. With our
international stories. We start off
tonight
with a statement made by our head of state, President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who said that the government expects to introduce new legislation in Parliament which will ensure that all government policies focus on the transformation to a highly competitive, export-oriented economy.
Joining the Climate Summit 2024 organised by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, the President said the bill will most probably be gazetted next next week.
Now, the President revealed that one of the provisions in the bill in carrying out the transformation is to ensure that Sri Lanka achieves net zero emissions by 2050.
He also said that this task to restore, his task to restore the country's economy is nearing its completion, and that they have to now focus on the next steps ahead.
You know what it has been like the last few days, walking out around in the city, and this is just a sign of things to come. My task as President had been to restore the economy. That task is nearing an end. We can't carry on with this economic model, which certainly hasn't worked. The government will be introducing legislation in Parliament which will ensure that all government policies focus on the transformation to a highly competitive, export-oriented economy. In fact, the bill most probably will be gazetted next week.
We are already drafting a new law which will deal with the environment and climate change. In some countries, we have different acts dealing with laws, but we decided that we will bring it together, one law which will handle both environment and climate change. We will retain the Central Environment Authority, but we will also bring in the climate change center. On the process of drafting, I have asked the officials now, in doing so, that far as possible, follow the Climate Change Act of UK, which I think is a good one. And it puts the burden on the government and the minister to act on the advice of the Climate Change Committee and table the regulations in Parliament. So that is the legislative aspect that we are bringing in. And the economy, on that basis, we have to have a green economy. So green financing and the whole aspects, the commercial and economic aspects become important.
ජීවිතේ හැම තැනකදීම ස්මාර්ට් වෙන්න පොලිය විතරක් ගෙවාගෙන යන්න CDB Smart Draft.
Foreign Minister Ali Sabri says negotiations with China on restructuring Sri Lanka's external debt is expected to follow through by June this year, the same time by when the Sri Lankan government aims to formalize the agreements in principle reached with the official creditor committee by converting them into memoranda of understanding.
Now, in November last year, Sri Lanka made agreements in principle between the official creditor committee, which comprises 17 countries, co-chaired by India, Japan and France, as well as the Paris Club.
The OCC said the Sri Lanka agreed on the main parameters of a debt treatment consistent with those of the extended fund facility arrangement between Sri Lanka and the IMF, but these agreements should be converted to actual agreements soon in order to proceed further.
With some resolution in external debt restructuring expected by June, Foreign Minister Ali Sabri told media that the island must also look into strengthening growth with foreign investment. To this end, he highlighted the interest of the Middle Eastern countries to invest in Sri Lanka's renewable energy and the ongoing discussions with the Indian government on possible grid connectivity in the future.
Sri Lanka is known for maintaining an independent foreign policy. For us to get the support of all big partners and shareholders of the IMF and all our big creditors, we hope that debt restructuring will come to an end as soon as possible. We are hopeful by the end of June, China will probably follow that up. If the external debt restructuring happens, then it's also important for us to quickly see the growth is taking place. We now have the news that the Mahana, that is the Iranian airline, wants to visit Sri Lanka. So with that, we would expect more tourists come from that region.
දවපතමාන් සඳහන් කරා මේ සෞදි අරාබිය සූදානම් ආයෝජනවලට අපේ රටේ කියලා. සාමාන්‍ය මොන වගේ ආයෝජනවලට එහෙම කියලා නැද්ද?
විශාල උනන්දුවක් තියෙනවා.
They are interested in investing in the renewable energy sector in the country. We are already in discussions with several major companies at the moment. We are also trying to manage grid connectivity of Sri Lanka and India and to export the excess energy to India.
ඉන්දියාවට අපනයනය කරන එක තමයි අපිට ලැබෙන විශාලම වාසිය.
වගේම තමයි පුතුමා පසුගියදා සඳහන් කළා අපේ අය යම් රටවලට යද්දී වීසා මේ ෆ්‍රී කිරීම සඳහා සාකච්ඡා විශේෂ මට මතකයි තායිලන්තේ එහෙම. දැන් මේකේ අලුත්ම තත්ත්වය කොහොමද මේ?
We must understand who needs more tourists to visit, whether it is us in Sri Lanka or those countries.
We have been dealing with Iran and Russia on investment part, but they are sanctioned by US, the Western nation. How are you dealing with that?
No, we are not going into their sanctioned area and all those things. There are a number of areas where sanction that does not get caught in. So a lot of countries work on that. So we will do in terms of the international rules and regulation. For example, now we resume the tea, as a result of which what happened, whatever the money we need to pay them for the $300 million US, so 13 years they haven't paid. But we restarted paying last August, so we can't remit the dollars. But what we do now is, the Petroleum Corporation pay that fight to now they are paying $10 million US to the tea board, and the tea board provide them tea. So barter kind of thing. So there are many ways to do it because it's important for us. These captive markets are not neglected.
Well, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka says that the resilience of the financial sector is expected to improve further with the dissipation of macroeconomic vulnerabilities in the period ahead.
The central bank added that a correction in market interest rates and credit to the private sector is expected to gather momentum with the expected easing of strained borrower capacities.
The financial sector regulator further said that banks are expected to rebalance the asset allocation with the normalizing yield curve on the government securities, which were once inverted, and the correction of the anomaly in the risk-free rates being higher than the lending rates.
Meanwhile, the banking sector is formulating recapitalization plans with the aim of strengthening their resilience to enable smooth sovereign debt restructuring.
In its economic outlook, the central bank said that the fragilities and uncertainties in the financial sector warranted the central bank to take a range of policy measures and initiate structural reforms to maintain and strengthen the resilience of the economy and the financial sector. Banks are expected to rebalance the asset allocation with the normalizing yield curves on government securities, which were once inverted, and the correction of the anomaly in the risk-free rates being higher than the lending rates. Reflecting the gradual revival of economic activities, the expected easing of strained borrower capacities, and the correction in market interest rates, credit to the private sector is expected to gather momentum. The envisaged credit growth, the gradual easing of trade-related restrictions, and improving repayment capacities are expected to improve the credit quality of the banking sector. Liquidity levels of banks are expected to improve with the envisaged external debt restructuring, as net foreign currency credit to the sovereign and illiquid foreign currency sovereign instruments are likely to be exchanged with liquid sovereign instruments. The central bank also said that the banking sector is formulating comprehensive recapitalization plans for its top-tier domestic licensed commercial banks with the view of strengthening their resilience to enable smooth sovereign debt restructuring while averting the transition of negative spillovers across the economy. The credit growth of licensed finance companies sector is expected to resemble a trajectory similar to that of the banking sector, with continued diversification amidst limited growth opportunities for conventional loan products. The central bank said it will closely collaborate with financial institutions to support the expansion of safe, efficient and reliable digital payment mechanisms in the country.
The Committee on Public Finance has summoned the Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security and the Controller General of Immigration and Emigration for an inquiry regarding ongoing issues centering on arrival visa. Chairman of COP-F parliamentarian Harsha De Silva said Secretary to the Ministry of Public Security along with the Controller General of Immigration and Emigration have been summoned to the COP-F committee meeting tomorrow. MP Harsha De Silva said a balanced inquiry will be carried out into the ongoing visa fiasco. The Committee on Public Finance Chair further said that the matter strangely was not put through the committee, although it is customary for all public finance related legislation to be routed through COP-F. On the 1st of May, the on-arrival visa issuance process at the Bandaranaike International Airport came to a standstill due to a system malfunction. Tourists were inconvenienced by extended waiting times and an altercation ensued with visa officials. It was also revealed that the on-arrival visa issuance facility had been handed over to the external party VFS Global. The facility was previously provided by the Department of Immigration and Immigration of Sri Lanka. In response to questions raised on the validity of the outsourcing of the visa issuance process, Minister of Public Security Derana stated that his proposal had received the approval of both the Cabinet and Parliament.
Now, the Supreme Court today ruled that State Minister Derana is disqualified to be a Member of Parliament and is therefore not eligible to hold office as a Member of Parliament as she was not a citizen of Sri Lanka. The Supreme Court three-judge bench comprising Justices Gamini Amarasekara, Kumuduni Wickramasinghe and Janaka De Silva made this statement. Now, Derana entered Parliament through the national list under the main opposition Samagi Janabalawekya in 2020. The court had concluded the hearing of an appeal filed challenging the appeals court's dismission of a petition against State Minister Derana Gamage's parliamentary membership. Upon concluding the proceedings on February 13th, the judge bench decided to defer its verdict indefinitely. Social activist Ursula Herath had put forward the appeal 2 weeks after the petition he had filed against the state minister's parliamentary seat, and citizenship was dismissed by the appeals court, naming Derana Gamage and several others as the respondents of this appeal. Herath said that he had previously filed a petition alleging that the lawmaker is unqualified to hold the position of a Member of Parliament in Sri Lanka, as she also holds dual citizenship.
Also in legal developments, Supreme Court Judge S. Raja has recused himself from the judge bench considering the appeals petitions filed by directors of the local agent of Express Pearl ship, which caught fire in the seas off Colombo Harbour and resulted in the country's worst maritime disaster. The relevant petitions have been filed seeking the suspension of hearing of a criminal case before the Colombo High Court in this regard. 7 petitions filed by directors of Sea Consortium Lanka Private Limited, the Sri Lankan agent of the Express Pearl ship operator, were taken up for hearing before a 3-member Supreme Court judge bench consisting of Justices S. Raja, Janaka De Silva and Priyantha Fernando. At the time, the chair of the 3-member judge panel, Justice S. Raja, informed the court that he was recusing himself from hearing of the trial due to personal reasons. Accordingly, the bench also ordered the petitions to be recalled on the 21st of May before another judge bench. The managing directors of the local agent of the ship in question had previously filed a revision petition before the Court of Appeal, stating that the case filed by the Attorney General against them before the Colombo High Court under the Prevention of Maritime Pollution Act regarding the Express Pearl ship disaster is unlawful. However, the Court of Appeal decided to dismiss the petitions without taking them up for hearing. Accordingly, the managing directors of the company have filed the relevant petitions before the Supreme Court requesting that the judgment of the Court of Appeal be annulled and an interim order be issued to suspend the hearing of the case.
Welcome back, everyone. Business news now, and up next we have Minal Wickramasinghe from Capital Alliance with some thoughts on the current status of the economy in our next segment, Economic Outlook.
Last week, crude oil prices experienced a downturn attributed mainly to uncertainties surrounding the trajectory of the US economy. Brent and WTI prices both saw declines, with Brent dropping by $4.76 per barrel and WTI by $3.91 per barrel. Concurrently, the weekly weighted prime lending rate, or the AWPLR, for the week ending May 3rd, 2024 inched up by 2 basis points to 10.15% compared to the previous week. Shifting focus to the external sector, A decrease in reserve money was observed primarily due to a reduction in currency in circulation. On the stock market front, positive movements were recorded as of April 3rd, 2024. The all-share price index, or the ASPI, climbed up by 1.67%, 12,404.33 points, while the S&P SL20 index saw an increase of 1.03%, reaching 3,672.05 points compared to the previous week. Furthermore, gross official reserves were provisionally estimated at US $4,960 million or 4 billion as of in March 2024, including proceeds from the PBOC swap agreement, which is subject to conditionalities on usability. Finally, the Treasury bill auction, which is held today, yields across the board witnessed a noticeable decline. The 3-month bill fell by 47 basis points, followed by the 6-month and the 12-month bill, which both saw a decline of 31 basis points.
Taking you to the stock market, the Colombo Bourse experienced a bearish sentiment throughout the trading day, falling to an intraday low of 12,348 before closing the day at 12,354, down 22 points. Uncertainty-driven profit-taking was observed during the day, yet active collection was seen from retail and high-net-worth investors. The top negative contributors to the all-share price index were Mercer Corp, LOLC Finance, Commercial Bank and Dialog Axiata. Despite the subdued market activity, turnover experienced a marginal uptick, totaling 2.2 billion rupees. Notably, Brown's investment dominated both turnover and volumes for the day, following disclosure made by the company on the CSE regarding the recent acquisitions in Kenya, Rwanda and Tanzania. The capital goods sector emerged as the leading contributor, constituting 23% of turnover, followed by the banking and food, beverage and tobacco sectors, collectively contributing 39% to daily turnover. Foreign investors, meanwhile, remain net sellers, recording a net outflow of 433.7 million rupees.
Well, the Sri Lankan rupee depreciated further against the US dollar today. The rupee has fluctuated against a basket of foreign currencies, while it has depreciated against Gulf currencies. With that, let's take a look at how the rupee exchanged during the day with other currencies for today.
Taking you to corporate affairs now, UAE-based international airline Emirates signed a memorandum of understanding with Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau to help promote tourism to Sri Lanka. With that, here's a look at today's corporate news segment.
UAE flag carrier Emirates has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau at Arabian Travel Market 2024 in Dubai. The MOU reaffirms Emirates' long-standing commitment to promoting tourism in Sri Lanka. As part of its wider efforts to support Sri Lanka, Emirates will engage closely with travel agents and tour operators in key strategic markets to help showcase destination offerings to customers across its global network. Tea and herbal drinks producer Lipton Teas and Infusions entered into a long-term partnership with Brown's Investments. The partnership allows the transfer of tea estates of Lipton Teas and Infusions in Kenya, Rwanda and Tanzania to Brown's Investments. Meanwhile, a separate agreement was inked allowing all tea sold by Brown's worldwide to be grown and harvested to a new set of standards covering quality, social and environmental protections. Nestle Lanka and the Commercial Bank of Ceylon partnered to launch an initiative to support dairy farmers with concessionary finance plants to expand their operations and increase fresh milk yield. This initiative was launched in line with the purpose of implementing regenerative agricultural practices to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the dairy value chain. As part of the financing program, Commercial Bank will also cover community development initiatives such as improving financial literacy and technical awareness of dairy farmers to support in uplifting their livelihoods. In other corporate news, KIST, operated by food company Cargill's, says it purchased over 30 metric tons of surplus tomatoes from local farmers in Gangeyaya, Valimada and Vangiya Kumbura. The surplus tomato will be processed to manufacture KIST tomato sauce at the company's manufacturing facility in Katana. The company said in a statement, the initiative underscores its commitment to supporting the local farming community.
Well, that's all from us here at First at 9. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mahesh Johnny.
And I'm Indira Yamuatta. Good night.